Things you learn from Christian history number 4. Sometimes it's hard to work out who the barbarians are. Sometimes the man to be scared of is not the hairy grunting bloke with the axe, but the one in silk speaking Latin. Chapter 4. Barbarians, Byzantium and Benedict. Now who's wearing the trousers? Empires are like relationships. When they fall apart, they rarely do so in a neat and orderly fashion. There are rows, tears, drunken abuse, the lawyers get called in, and there are massive arguments over who gets custody of the provinces. Certainly the decline and fall of the formerly mighty Roman Empire TM was a long, drawn-out and messy affair. The last emperor of the West was named Romulus Augustus. Perhaps he was named in the hope that combining the name of the founder of Rome and its greatest emperor could restore the old magic. For all the good it did, they might as well have called him Kevin. He paid barbarian troops to fight for him, and was quite surprised when in 476 they turned around and deposed him. It didn't make much difference. By then most of the West was already under the control of various barbarian tribes. Some of these had even arrived in Italy, on the suggestion of the emperor in Constantinople. He was a man with a rather sci-fi name of Emperor Zeno, and for a long time he had been fighting the Ostrogoths, a semi-nomadic people who lived in the lands north of the Black Sea. Zeno suggested that what the Ostrogoths really needed was a place to live where it was warmer, had great pasture, and was ruled by an idiot called Kevin Romulus. So, in 488, Theodoric and his Ostrogoths set out on one of the great package holidays of history. 5 years later, they ruled Italy. Theodoric was an Arian Christian, nominally at least. He had agreed to rule jointly with a rival barbarian leader called Odoacer. At the official banquet to celebrate the agreement, Theodoric came up behind Odoacer and sliced him in half, top to bottom. Theodoric turned Ravenna into his capital, building not only magnificent palaces, but wonderful churches. They might have been barbarians, but they were not barbaric. Part of what made them such an effective fighting force was that they had invented trousers, which meant that they could ride fast around Europe on horseback, engage in widespread carnage, and look good in nightclubs. And Theodoric was generally tolerant of other religions. He allowed the Jews of Genoa to rebuild their synagogue. When Christians attacked Jews in Ravenna, Theodoric fined them all and made them pay damages. At this point, things could have gone a number of ways for the Western Church. All right, I accept that at any point things could go a number of ways, but let's leave the multiverse speculation for the moment. They could have sought help from their family in the East, but they didn't. They could have made accommodation with the Arian faith of their conquerors, but they didn't. They could have disappeared entirely, but they didn't. Instead, they started to steer their own course, to seek their own allies. It was time for independence. Frankly speaking, despite the collapse of the Old Kingdom, the Kingdom of God was growing. One of the many warring tribes in Europe was the Franks. If you think that name is rather mundane, there was a barbarian tribe near the Black Sea called the Alans. The Franks, their rather spicy leader Clovis, married a Burgundian princess called Clotilda. The Burgundian tribe were Orthodox Latin Christians, and Clotilda recommended that Clovis apply immediately. Clovis refused, but then, like soldiers before and since, he found himself in the middle of a battle that was not going well. So he prayed, "Oh, Jesus Christ, Clotilda tells me you're the Son of the living God. If you give me victory, I will be baptized and follow you. Terms and conditions apply." All words to that effect. Jesus, who by now appears to have become a huge fan of warfare, answered his prayer, and the Franks won. So, on Christmas Day, 499, Clovis was baptized along with all his 3,000 soldiers, thus establishing the French military principle, all for one and one for all, so beloved of the later musketeers. He took to wearing something he called a salvation-giving war helmet, and went on to take the whole of Gaul. The Franks had arrived. Oh, shall I show you the cartoon? Nah, it's not that good.